We are at X-Men 97. We're into episode 3 and 4, and we're actually only about a month away from the new season debuting. So I'll rack up the speed that these episodes are coming out at you.
Did y'all watch the trailer?
No, no, I
Good.
I
Good,
don't
good, good.
believe in watching trailers personally if I know I'm gonna watch something, because if I build up too much of an expectation, if I think about it too much, I'll walk into it with too much of an idea in my head of what I feel the movie should be in order to be a good movie. And I want the movie to have like a chance to be whatever it is if I'm excited about it already. I watch trailers if I haven't heard of something. It's for a new idea for sure.
Or or if it's something from Marvel.
I mean, some things I can't, resist out of curiosity. The Avengers ones, they kind of make the ads part of the experience. So I do watch those. If I'm in a theater, then I'm kind of being subjected to it, but in the way that the filmmaker would most prefer to see it anyway, because it is the big screen. So unless it's something I really, really, really want to see and save myself for, I'll watch that.
Y'all remember back in the day before YouTube and before all this, before the internet was really big, when you had to do shit like sit through the entirety of Meet Joe Black to see the fucking Star Wars trailer, the episode 1 trailer?
Mm,
I
mm.
did that with my dad. I had no idea what was going on in that movie.
That's crazy, but I also went to see Wing Commander, so I don't think it's any better. Like for the same purpose, to see it.
Yeah.
Everyone trailer.
So there was a trailer for Star Wars, or like that came tacked on at the end.
The trailer came tacked on at the end to make sure you stayed through the fucking movie.
Yeah,
What?
some theaters did that. I don't know. I'm gonna tell Wing Commander it wasn't like that. It was like right before the movie.
Have you seen Meet Joe Black?
Yeah, I've
I've
seen it
seen
like
Meet Joe.
later when it
That
wasn't
movie sucks.
a thing.
It would be so funny though if at the end he'd be like, "Okay, well, back to hell or heaven or whatever," and then the character from the other movie just like steps in and is like, "Oh, miso, whatever, Jar
You
Jar."
so what?
Excited for Star Wars, and
Yeah,
Joe
that would be a really
like,
jarring
"Yeah."
experience after like the really emotional, teary, like melodramatic, sappy stuff between Claire Forlani, like acting her guts out. The
And
most
then
forgotten
I
how
was 11. I was 11 years old. What
yeah,
the fuck?
yeah. I definitely like probably was more interested in Claire Forlani movies than you were at the time.
Mm.
That was also around the time when I realized I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. So speaking of the time machine, we
Hmm.
might as well jump into the way back yonder of March 27th, 2024, when the first episode, Fire Made Flesh, came out. Uh, that the song of the week was Ariana Grande's "We Can't Be Friends." Wait for your love, a song that you're very familiar with, Jamie.
She actually wrote that for me.
Yeah,
My a song that my Apple Music called an unhealthy listen for 2024.
that's okay. And yeah, that's the only reason you guys aren't friends, Ben.
Yeah.
That song. Yeah. The number one movie was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
I didn't realize that was the number one movie at any point.
Yeah, me neither.
it like did I think it made its budget back, but because it had like a smaller scale on purpose,
Mhm.
they kind of like knew they could aim smaller. The final big action set piece is inside the classic fire hall.
Mhm.
And that I feel is much smaller in scale than everything else they've done, even the third or the fourth movie, Afterlife, whatever you want to call that.
Haven't
Uh,
seen that either.
which felt also a little bit smaller because it was moved away from a big city population center, like the
They
fate
could
of
have
the world, but also out in, the middle of nowhere on a farmhouse. I think
yeah.
it's smart for the series to scale down in some ways because it's got more likelihood of surviving if knows it's appealing to a fan base that like it's not a blockbuster fan base at this point in time. But
Yeah, they know their audience and they've done a good job of continuating the
yeah, like
series.
they
So
made over 100 million worldwide in theaters, so there is value in it, but
Yep.
Like it's not like on the levels of 1984 when it was one of the biggest movies of the year and Bill Murray won a Golden Globe for the
Well,
performance.
Dan Aykroyd out of retirement though.
Also debuting that weekend was Late Night with the Devil, which is a modern classic. I think if you've never seen it, it stars David Dastmalchian. It's this
Oh,
movie
yeah, yeah, yeah,
by
yeah.
design.
I forgot what that movie was called.
Yeah, it's all set within like the hour that a TV show is hosting, like a late night talk show in the 70s.
Hmm.
But some creepy shit starts to happen. A possessed person comes into the show, and everyone does a really great job of acting.
David Dalmagian,
David
creepy.
Desmalchian. Yeah.
Wow, creepy. Him never.
Well, he's
He is
actually more of like he displays some range here. He's more of like a slick talk show host, like a
really
Jimmy Kimmel, Johnny Carson type of character in it than his regular type of person.
because he is professionally unsettling. I love that dude.
Before we get into talking about what happens in this episode, it's actually an adaptation of one of Marvel's biggest and most influential stories called Inferno, which was back in 1989. It was one of the very first times, like they've had big stories before in the past, like Secret Wars, which is being adapted into the big Avengers movie in a couple of years, that incorporated all the characters, but it would be its own event. Whereas Inferno was the first time that it happened across the whole line of comic books. So it wasn't just happening in the X-Men and the New Mutants and X Factor and Excalibur, which was the teams that were happening at the time, but it was also happening in the pages of like Avengers, Daredevil, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. That's where like the demon Hobgoblin came from. That Ben, I think you might have seen on Spider-Man comics when you were a kid.
Definitely the Spider-Man TV show, if nothing else.
Well, I don't think they did the Demon Hobgoblin in the TV show, but in Maximum Carnage, and I think the video game Maximum Carnage,
That's what I'm thinking. Yep.
Demon Demogoblin is in it. Yeah, he's definitely got that animation style.
Just the name that name sounds like the Green Goblin, but at Spirit Halloween or something. Like it sounds like a knockoff Green Goblin, but I know it's not. But
Yeah,
Oh
the
God.
Demogoblin. Yeah, I mean, it was a short-lived thing. I think it was only from 1989 to 94, 95 or so, but it was popular in that short period of time. There's, toys of it showed up in video games. Video games were a big part of this era for
Hmm.
comic books because they were like showing that there was real blockbuster success potential with like Spider-Man, Maximum Carnage, etc. And we'll come back to that in a little bit. Um,
Yeah, Maximum Carnage was sick. Just before we watched these episodes, before I watched episodes today, I happened upon some random TV show on like Much Music, I think. And it
okay.
was talking about the 90s and like what was going on at Marvel and like the bankruptcies and like selling off all these rights and the role of Avi Arad. He was like the producer on the X-Men show, one of the producers, because he was the one that kind of directed the Toy Biz company.
Yes.
So like there's some interesting stuff there we could dip into at any point.
Yeah, yeah. The toys were a really, really big driver behind the TV show happening, as well as Margaret Lesh and all the work she did behind the scenes running
Yeah.
Fox Kids at the time. But Toy Biz was actually the toys were more successful in a lot of ways because of the cartoons and everything than the actual comic books. And the comic books were also really successful. Like the late 80s, early 90s were the height of the comic book like collector driven phase where we had like comic books going from 1 million to 10 million on the high end actually selling, whereas today a high end book selling is in like the low hundreds of thousands. Something
Mhm.
selling 1 million copies is extremely rare
It'd be like
today.
selling a million albums today, like physical copies.
It's really gone out of vogue, and like stories get discovered over time in trade paperback form, but it's definitely not the same titan of industry. It's not like video games is definitely leading the way right now.
Hmm.
Uh, and then movies and streaming are somewhere in there. But this was the era where you could even slap a thing on Power Pack and you'd sell an extra couple 100,000 copies of it because it was part of this big story that everybody was trying to catch all parts of. So we
Hmm.
only get a little glimpse of it in this.
I think
Um,
that's around the time that this guy Ron Perlman bought up Marvel and started trying to make it profitable,
not that Ron Perlman
right? Different
audience.
spelling and way scarier.
Yeah, so Bob Harris was the editor in chief that was like came up with this idea to like spread the whole story across the whole line of it, which which was a constant thing that would happen like every year. So every year, half of the books would be devoted to follow. Well, not all, half the books, maybe like 3 to 6 per year would be devoted towards being part of this bigger overarching storyline, like Onslaught, which is when Xavier went crazy and became like a greater monster form that was fighting against everybody else, or like Atlantis Attacks, or like you'd have Spider-Man Maximum Carnage, which covered the whole Spider-Man line, or the Age of Apocalypse, which covered the whole X-Men line. They'd have like various sizes of things, but there was always an event happening, and the seeds for the next events were being sown all the time. This series of X-Men 97 is actually leading up to the events of 1997's big X-Men line crossover, which was Operation Zero Tolerance.
Hmm.
And that was all part of the Bob Harris era. Like many people have strong feelings about this. Mark,
Operation Zero Tolerance when Magneto said no to drugs. Yeah.
Okay, on that note, I really miss the 90s era where I don't know why, but they do like all these like PSAs against drugs and stranger danger just starring superheroes or like G.I. Joe or something. I Every time I see these cartoons, I'm like, I remember when these were interspersed with things about Wolverine picking up garbage.
Right.
yeah,
Don't litter, bub.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
I'll just mention again because I mentioned it before on the show, but Cartoon All Stars to the Rescue was
Yes.
just a pivotal
incredible
example. Yeah,
power. So if we ever get a Patreon going, we'll do like a special on that because it's nuts. Like all of the characters coming together
yeah,
to tell you not to do drugs. And boy, was it ever ineffective and a hilarious thing to watch.
yeah.
If you ever,
Anti-drug propaganda, if anything, just made me more curious about drugs.
yeah, it was like, why is this such a big taboo?
Like, I'm sorry, why was I learning about what cocaine was in the fifth grade? I didn't need to be knowing that. There's no reason for me I wouldn't have known.
Mm.
However, by the time I got to eighth grade, I knew exactly what it was.
Because you've done cocaine?
Yes.
Yeah. See, maybe that's why. Like, do you think that if you'd known, it would have made you more likely to, like, would you have said no, right? Because for me, that did motivate me saying no for at least a little while until I got to an age where I figured out a lot of stuff that I was told in school was just kind of about keep making you a nice, orderly worker bee.
Hmm.
So what was going on at the same time as I was doing these like anti-drug courses, even in like middle school and early high school, is I was also getting harm reduction training from Island Kids. So I was like, oh, well, okay, so these guys are saying everything is evil, but y'all are saying things can be tested.
Yeah,
Okay, I like them better.
it's definitely more positive messaging, and definitely people who pioneered harm reduction definitely found out that a lot of stuff wasn't actually as harmful as it really was. And there was kind of like a little bit of a golden age, I'd say from like 2012 to 2016, 17 or so, where the awareness of drugs was actually pretty good and you could be a lot more, you could use a lot more safely because everything was getting tested. Most of the drugs people were doing were well stomped down because they were brought from somewhere else, at least relatively clean. But then fentanyl came into the scene and kind of
Literally, like,
fucked it.
there is no reason why I should have maintained a semblance of a regular life while doing what I was doing. But
A high
that's
functioning
because,
why yeah, it's a thing. It's a real thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was Jamie's sad childhood.
Jamie's Corner, you're all invited. Do, do, do,
Sad
do.
childhood. Yes, it
Um,
was.
to go back to childhoods, the Toy Biz was actually so successful that they end up buying Marvel, right? Is that where you're going with that, Ben?
I don't know if I got to that part of it, but it was just that this Arad, whatever, had like a lot of influence over what they did on the show, uh,
Yeah.
and also over the Spider-Man series and the Silver Surfer, I think, as well.
Yeah,
And yeah, it was like head to head and butting heads with Margaret. What was her name again?
yeah.
Thatcher?
From Yeah.
No, Margaret Lush is the opposite of Margaret
Yeah.
Thatcher. She's the one who like brought all of our childhood imaginations to being. She saw that a lot of stuff that were turned out to be great would be great if given a chance. And shout out her. She's an awesome part of this story. Avi Arad, like, yeah, he was originally a part of the cartoons, and then he was also the big producer on the movies at first, like the X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies. And a
Oh.
big part of kind of Kevin Feige's takeover was pushing Avi Arad out and pushing Ron Perlman out of being power voices. They were like the New York voices that were controlling it and trying to keep it a more conservative atmosphere. They were the ones who said no Black Widow movie, no Shang-Chi in the Avengers. They
Mm.
kind of wanted things to be a lot more
At the end
palatable
of this,
to what they saw as the audience.
at the end of the TV
White
show,
and male. Sorry.
they mentioned like the rise of Kevin Feige, and it was like he was just getting coffee for people at Marvel. Like he wasn't like a big shot, and that's just
Mm-mm.
crazy to me because he's so important now.
Yeah, what was it like? What did he start working on? It was something fucking random.
It might have been Blade.
Yeah, I think it was like one of the Blade movies or
Yeah,
like an
probably that
early
because
Marvel.
by the time of X-Men, he's like an associate producer, which doesn't
Yeah,
mean he is like the assistant
Might have
producer.
been Howard the Duck, honestly.
there it is. That's the
Yeah,
one.
He goes
yeah.
way back, all right.
Oh yeah, duck titties.
Yeah, and
Duck
and this
titties.
show, like to listen to the Luolds, it sounds like this show was actually very much like there was a power struggle in the beginning between how the X-Men were going to be depicted because Stan Lee wanted the characters to be like the characters that he invented in the 60s, and he kind of wanted to present the show as more of like a Hanna-Barbera 60s type show, like more goofy and more fun.
Scooby Doo, like
Yeah, not quite
Could have
Scooby-Doo,
been
but
the
it wasn't
narrator.
that bent and with over-the-top characters and fun stuff. But
Meanwhile, at the mansion,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Luke saw the potential in making a reflection of what was happening right now in the comics, like the edgier adult stuff that Stanley didn't know. And Margaret Loesch was one of the people that like wound up pushing and going, okay, let's go with the writers. Let's go like, with their vision for things because like it's hip right now. That's why we're getting into it. Why not make a show of what is hip right now? Because the Stan Lee era of X-Men actually got canceled, right? It actually didn't last until like it got canceled around 67, 68 or so, was reprinted for a couple of years and was brought back in the mid 70s as an opportunity to be a multicultural team in an era where there was a big push for multicultural representation on film, like in this with the talks of like Billy Jack and that push for more narrative representation in film, as we covered in our Parallax review episodes. So, the
great.
episode starts with this bombshell revelation that the other Jean Grey that showed up at the end of the previous episode and has passed out since is actually the real Jean Grey. And the Jean Grey that we have known for the past couple episodes, at the very least, is a clone of unknown origin. So Ben, what was your reaction when this happened?
So won't the real Gene lady please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. Yeah, that was cool. It was like as soon as I saw Mr. Sinister, I was like, oh damn, I remember all that stuff from the old series. And sure enough,
Hmm.
here we go.
So, remember when we made you go la 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 and had a conversation?
Mm, it was about this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. Because Jean doesn't have many appearances in season five, but in all of season five, it's generally being determined that she is the clone. Because the most logical time for her to be replaced would be Beyond Good and Evil when her and all the other telepaths got like stuck in tubes,
Hmm.
right? Like fairly easy time to have made the switch. So that's generally what's assumed to be like Madeline and Jean kind of decide not to do the carbon dating to figure out when exactly it happened, and there's like an open debate, and I think that makes it more interesting for there to be an uncertainty, but it feels pretty likely that that's when they did the switcheroo.
The
Uh,
Mamma Mia complex. I don't need to
I
know who
think
my real
honestly,
dad is.
the first thing I thought was it was maybe a time traveled version of the same Gene, not that she
oh
was,
yeah,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
Anyways,
way more interesting this way.
if you
and
haven't listened to our episode on Beyond Good and Evil, go
yeah,
back.
It's on YouTube somewhere.
Banger. I'm
So
gonna link it in the show notes.
Madeline Pryor is actually also from the comic books. She showed up after the whole Phoenix Saga debacle from the comic books, in the period where Jean Grey was considered dead, and Cyclops left the X-Men team a year or so later. He just couldn't deal with the grief of it. And up in Anchorage, Alaska, when he was hanging out with like Jean's parents for some weird reason, he meets this woman who's a pilot, who's a human and not a mutant, but she looks just like Jean, and her name is Madeline Pryor, and they have a relationship, and they have a baby, just like they do in the show here. And she doesn't have superpowers until this story, because in the early 80s the writers decided to retcon Jean being dead and say that she had actually been left at the bottom of Jamaica Bay in New York in a tomb, and she gets woken up, and Cyclops leaves his young baby and his Jean clone wife that he doesn't know it's a clone, uh, to go back to form X Factor, which is like a government mutant team, and they have this public face of hunting mutants. It's all a trick by that bastard Cameron Hodge, who we discussed in the Phalanx Covenant episode a couple months ago.
Uh,
Yeah, fuck Cameron Hodge. He destroyed their marriage. And anyway, like Scott and Jean eventually do connect and hook up, and that leads Madeline Pryor to make an actual pact with real demons. But in this episode, the demons are just kind of a manufacture of her fractured psyche, because not long after figuring all of this out, that she is in fact a clone, everything starts to go haywire, and we get like a really fucking cool sequence. What are your guys' first takes on the nightmare sequence that happens? It's kind of like a starts very Nightmare on Elm Street with Morph, right?
yeah, it was yeah, very much like it felt
Nightmare on
like
Elm
it.
Street 2, to be specific.
Pardon me?
I feel like it's referencing Nightmare on Elm Street 2, like the
Oh
movie
yeah.
didn't
It
realize
felt like
how
lightning.
critical for
Like
being.
it was like shocking. It was really cool actually. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, they've really upped the animation quality and
Oof.
stuff on this one.
Yeah, the animation quality like
And the
really leaps
music
in
too.
huge
Yeah.
bounds and becomes like Akira good, right?
That's where like the 30 years later really comes in. You're like, "Oh yeah."
The budget is really nice that Kevin Feige has greenlit with Disney
Uh-huh.
for this whole streaming era. But like it just looks so good, and I appreciate that they waited a couple episodes to really show the full potential of the show's animation.
It would
So
have been overwhelming.
it was well, like you don't want to like blow the load all at once, right? Like now we know what the show is really capable of, and we'll see higher quality animation throughout the season going forward. But like it's just such a massive explosion of ideas, like we see Magneto and Rogue kind of melting together, and that's really horrifying. And
That was crazy.
like
It's like,
as
"Hey,
horrifying to
we
us
all
as it would be
hate
to
you."
Remy, like we really get in his head, I feel, when Gambit is like feeling the sense of loss that she's gone with Magneto almost immediately after him joining the team.
It kind of reminded me of Color from Space, whatever that movie was, remember? With
Oh yeah, Color Out of Space,
Out of Space, yeah.
like some weird adaptation. I think it was by Don Coscarelli.
It was cool anyway.
Yeah, really
Loved it
interesting.
when Gambit started talking in third person. It's like, "Oh, Gambit's got to get out of here." It's like,
That's what he do. That's what he do.
I know.
Um, yeah, they had some fun moments, and then uh, uh, what did you think about the reveal that Morph was like more sexuality was kind of confirmed in this episode?
Hmm.
Fork found in kitchen.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was ever as obvious as in this when his nightmare is that Wolverine knows who and what he is and is kind of mocking him about it.
I always
I don't
assumed
know.
they
Oh,
switch.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he does become a woman more often than he becomes a man in so far
Yeah.
these episodes.
When you have that much range in what you can turn into, I feel like limiting yourself to a sexuality is just insane.
Totally, it
Hmm.
makes
So,
so much
yeah.
sense. Of all the characters, like I remember there being backlash in the right wing to him becoming to Morph becoming a they them and being gender fluid or whatever. But it just like it makes so much sense. I mean, it's insane. The Luas came out really quick and said like, yeah, of course this character would be like this.
Yeah.
Kind of like Star Trek Deep Space Nine with Dax. It's like they understand both male and female bodies, and
Yeah,
you know,
and what it's like to feel like the biological attraction going each way because they've
Mhm.
lived lives in different bodies with sharing this kind of sentient, benevolent parasite, the
I'm
Trills.
not gonna look it up, but I imagine there's some really terrible morph deviant art out there,
Oh God, DeviantArt.
right?
You're
Boo.
not wrong, but yeah. So anyway, everyone figures out pretty quickly that everyone thinks that they're in hell at first, and the whole world caves away, like the ground underneath goes nuts, and they're all fighting demons in hell, and it looks wild.
Little boy, you're going to hell.
Yeah,
Mm.
just a bonkers battle erupts, and then Jean wakes up and kind of puts a stop to everything, and they have a big debate with Jean and Madeline Pryor debate the ethics and everything of what's happening, and Madeline is convinced to chill the fuck out and like not blame everybody for what's happening because it's not her fault. But of course, the whole time she being a sleeper agent for Mr. Sinister, harvesting Scott's baby. Um, oh yeah, to go back to Mr. Sinister, the thing that we were talking about was in the end of the Phalanx Covenant, when Sinister runs away. Cyclops goes to run after Mr. Sinister because he hates him, right? He's like got a vendetta against him. And Jean says, "Oh," well, Madeline Pryor says, "Oh, don't let him go. Let him go. It's fine. It's not worth it." So she's instinctively protective of Sinister and making it so that Scott doesn't get in his way. So I thought that was really interesting that that happened. And I wonder if, like, other than the fact that Jean's hair changes to like the proper comic book long hair from the weird ponytail and flesh-colored bodysuit from of before. Um, but that I wonder if that might have been what inspired Beau DeMayo or somebody on the writing staff to have this switcheroo happen and to do the Madeline Pryor clone storyline in this like the beginning of it anyway is much more interesting. I think it would have been cool if they were dealing with a demon invasion, but it's kind of the way of storytelling to flirt with something before really going deep into it. Might have been too much. It was definitely too much back in the 90s to reference this story. Okay, so this episode just never stops with the plot, and the whole thing turns out to have been a diversion so Mr. Sinister could steal this baby that he's genetically engineered, his prized baby possession, young Nathan. The X-Men do manage to save baby Nathan from Mr. Sinister, but Mr. Sinister has bathed him in this techno-organic goo. Maybe something inspired by his recent experience with the Phalanx Covenant, because that stuff all happened like just this year, last year or so, roughly, for them. Not 30 years apart. I guess 27 years apart for the end of the show to this. But that's time travel bullshit. Who cares? Uh, the point is that little Nathan is not going to survive in this time, so they give the baby to Bishop to take into the future in the hopes that Forge or somebody will be able to save him.
And Cyclops is pissed.
Yeah, he refuses
Bro.
to be part of it.
Holy
He doesn't like
fuck.
He
refuse to
shouldn't
let
be.
Madeline do it, but he's fucking heartbroken about it.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine anything bad handing an infant to a bishop.
No.
Oof.
We're gonna
Yeah.
move right along, by the way.
Rough.
And
Important.
then we're not even done yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Madeline and Jean have a cheerful goodbye, and Madeline takes off on the road, and we'll see her a couple episodes for sure.
Fine, you can be Jean again.
But
I guess
Jean's
I'll call
back.
myself Madeline.
Jean's back. She doesn't have all of her memories. Like Madeline's memories are more crystal because of I think because of the memory drain process that Sinister did to implant Jean's memories into Madeline. Jean's still foggy as hell. And So she's trying to figure out what's going on. She does not feel good about Cyclops being, married to somebody else for a year and not ever realizing that it wasn't her.
Imagine how many times he banged someone else.
Enough to put a
Yeah.
baby in her
I
at
was
least.
just gonna say, literally made a baby.
At least once.
Yeah.
That's a recurring thing for Cyclops in the 21st century is not being able to hide banging other people from his hot telepath wife. It's a
And
big
one of
problem
those
for him.
people, Wolverine. And one more plot point.
Yeah, and what is it, Jamie?
A mutant named Forge introduces himself to Storm and claims he can restore her powers, and then it's like, boom. I love when it ends on a cliffhanger like that. We've seen Forge before.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that story will be picked up in Life Death, which is include like Life Death Part 1 and Part 2 are both based on different Life Death happened two different times. There were two Life Death stories. The second one was like a bigger follow-up to it in the comic books in the 80s. So
Mm.
in honor of the fact that there was two different Life Death 1 and Life Death Part 2, the cartoon has weirdly split up Life Death into part one, which is at the end of Motendo, and then part two, which is after the next episode. Remember it. Because that's all a little bit confusing, we're going to put Life Death all on the next episode and only talk about Motendo now, which aired April 3rd, 2024. And the number one song was Lose Control by Teddy Swims, which is kind of like deep raspy voice throat
Yeah.
singer kind of guy. You've heard this song on the radio somewhere like in the mall. You couldn't escape it.
It's normie music that I don't mind.
Yeah, you played at Coachella,
Yeah, I remember it being on like the work playlist at UEM, the one that was approved, and I was like, okay, I don't hate this.
Is that the
Yeah.
one that's like, it's just me, myself, and I?
No,
Burr, 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 burr.
no. The song is
What's the- No.
no, and now I've lost any possible chance of remembering the
Me
melody.
too. I was like,
That's so
I was
I
like,
was
different.
just trying to think of a
I,
recent
I was
raspy
like, I
voice song.
barely remembered it as it
Like
is.
I
It's
literally
not
thought it
Milky Chance
was
though.
Daniel Rateliff and the Night Sweat song, or the band that did that Colors song from a couple
Mm.
years ago. Remember that one? Colors. All I see is colors. That was a good tune. This one's
Mm.
fine. The number one movie though was Godzilla X Kong New Empire. So first, before we get into talking about that movie, what's up with two back-to-back movies from Hollywood coming out with Empire in the title? Frozen
Bit
Empire.
on the nose considering now.
Yeah, we're living in a very imperial age, right? Not.
Show
I don't know if there's a good
Boardwalk
movie.
Empire had just
There's
been
a
on
bad.
Netflix.
Water Empire was good. I like that show.
Yeah.
But
Very
anyway, to me, I feel like the Godzilla series had walked a fine line. Like it had always had some kind of cringy elements, but also had some great payoff with some of the most amazingly rendered, giant monster fights in movie history. But then, man, New Empire is really where I think it tips the line. It just becomes just too dumb. There's like fucking 30 minutes of that movie where he's just Donkey Kong walking around talking to apes, and there's no reason for us to interpret them as massive because it's all at head height. There's like 400-foot tall apes all talking to each other, but it just feels like you're watching, a Donkey Kong cartoon.
Hmm.
Am I
I
And
right?
get it.
I was entertained.
Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining. I feel like the next one is probably kind of uphill battle to climb to be that successful. Yeah, any first impressions before we get into the actual plot of Motendo here?
Is this the episode where Jubilee says the line, I don't understand your validly angry Portuguese? Because that
Yes.
might have been the funniest thing I've ever heard her say. I liked it. I
Yeah, I
thought it
mean,
was weird as hell.
it's
Mhm.
interesting. It's fun. Um, I feel that it's the both the weakest episode of the season and also a pretty good show. Like it for it to be the weakest thing is that more a sign of how good the overall show is than
Yeah.
an indictment of the actual episode because it's pretty fun. I
It's like
like
getting
all
third at the Olympics. That's still you were at the fucking Olympics.
I really appreciate the way that they reference the old cartoons. They don't explicitly directly reference the exact X-Men cartoon. It's more of like a Ninja Turtles style cartoon, bit of a almost a Scott Pilgrim take on the cartoon on the video games when we finally get into the video game world. But
Well, it
there's a
was
lot
like
of
a
really fun
16-bit
jokes.
console. Like it looked like a Sega Genesis, right?
Yeah, more like a Sega Genesis than a Nintendo. But they even put a cover, like they tried to recreate the cover of one of the actual games from back in the day. So that was
Sega Monesis just didn't sound very good.
Oh,
That's the sound.
good
You just made a
lord.
Sega Monesis.
there's not
That
much.
is that the sound when you put the game in?
Instead of going Sega, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Actually, you know what? I do have an early impression of this. It's Jubilee's 18th birthday.
Yes.
hmm
So this confirms that we've traveled 5 years in time.
There we go.
That
So,
and Lynch there, I think. I
so
appreciate
wait.
that.
So it's 2002?
No, it's 1997, but she joined the team in 1992.
Right. Yes. Okay. Oh, it's been 5 years since. Yes. Okay.
But
Now
now
I'm on
the
the same page.
interpretation of the first Christmas as an X-Men line is that she's never actually been considered in the X-Men until season 4. That's the
No
way I take it.
homers allowed.
After the Phoenix, like maybe when Jean disappeared, there, yeah, you can be on the team now. I would buy that.
All right, get off the bench, Rook.
She was like more trouble than positive until that point. And then the third season, she's really like holding her own, right? We did see her powers did evolve and get stronger.
She did unfortunately take a bunch of kids into a basement and get them trapped later on, but where
But she kept any of those kids from dying of panic. So
that's very true.
yeah, and she kept them away from when it flooded, you know. So she's got good instincts in survival. I I do get what they were doing with the character development of that episode. It was just, it was what it was, and just like this one is what it is too. And it starts with an argument between Jubilee and Magneto, and there's a team about what they should do for her birthday. And ultimately, the decision is that they're not going to do anything fun for her birthday. I guess she has a tantrum or something. She's mad at him. There's references to the fact that Cyclops and some of the other X-Men are off at the United Nations, which means this is sort of happening almost concurrently with the next episode. Remember it?
This is the second time they've done this.
Done what?
This is this is just a rehash of Jubilee's fairy tale thing. It's like, well, the really big ones, they're all away right now. This is
Weren't
just a
they at the
Jubilee
UN
episode.
too in that one?
What?
I think they were going to the UN in that one
Yeah,
too.
that's what I meant. Like, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure this is the
It's not
second
good.
time they've gone to the UN to get away from Jubilee.
The only reason they go, not to do important legislative, try to
Nope.
Sorry, no jubes allowed.
They actually just go to Hawaii every time. Like one day she's gonna figure it out.
It's like a resort called like Ulele, Nagobi or something.
Yeah.
UN.
Like that end scene of the new Naked Gun when it's like oh he has to go to to sensitivity training and it's like sensitivity training resort. It's like a bunch of cops jumping in the water. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a funny move. Shout out Nike guy. So at first Jubilee is kind of losing very badly, but she miraculously gets her like life points back, and it's evident that there's kind of a ghost in the machine helping her succeed. And then ultimately when they get to the point in the video game where they have to go up against Magneto and fight him, and he's like the very classic Magneto as opposed to the new purple giant
Sexy.
white M. Yeah, yeah, the man.
Sexy Magneto.
Yeah. It's the classic one. And again, he's like all 8-bitted out. And they're losing that too. And they get saved at the last minute by what turns out to be an older Jubilee that is a beta testing version of her. And this was actually kind of a clever way for them to get the original voice actress back to play her, because Allison Court was the original Jubilee, and she's kind of like a voice acting legend, lots of video games, etc. But Holly Chow replaced her because Allison Court no longer felt it was like right in the modern era to play an Asian character.
An 18-year-old. Oh, an Asian. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas like some characters couldn't play their characters anymore. Catherine Disher was the original Jean Grey, even though she's still active. They cast someone else to play her, and Catherine Disher now plays Val Cooper, the government lady. They gave her another substantial role, but like because they determined her voice was too different, you know. Whereas we have Alison Sealy Smith is still Storm. We've still got Lenore Zan as Rogue. We've still got Cal Dodd as Wolverine and George Buza as Beast. It feels like I'm watching a solid continuation of the original show.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And then at the end, Roberto kind of finally shows some hero gist and he saves her. That's kind of the end. Let's talk about how they present Mojo.
Ah,
Like, what was your take when you first saw him, Ben? Like,
I mean, he looks skinnier, and then they commented on it. He's like, "Yeah, I got a little nip, a little tuck." Like, it's very funny. He's like the quintessential like slimy Hollywood producer. They've done a good job bringing him back.
what are they going for with like making it so that success makes like I guess the success makes him fat? Is it just like a very obtuse metaphor? Like just directly he becomes like because once she starts to succeed in the game and people start to watch the show and cheer for it again, then he just gets really, really fat right away. I don't
Mhm.
know. I kind of feel like this doesn't work and they maybe didn't need to do this.
Well, maybe he just had to get really big to go be the boss.
he
Yeah,
paid the cost to be the boss,
Hmm.
you'd say.
it's a thing that doesn't work for me.
Fair.
Yeah. I'd say I give it like it's fun and everything. I would give it like a 7. It's not very consequential, but it's well animated and the references are good.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Then
We didn't rate the last one.
yeah, let's go back and do that.
Yeah.
How would you rate Fire Made Flesh?
Me?
Yeah.
I would give it a solid 8. It was
Okay.
fun. I liked it. I liked the fucking surreal editing or the surreal animation. I liked it all.
How about you, Ben?
I liked this gobbling queen better than the second one. That's for sure. The second one being Mojo. So this
Sorry,
one,
what kind of queen?
gobbling.
Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha. I give that one a 10, honestly. I just really, really love the animation and the step forward that it makes. The emotional stakes are big. This will all have payoffs very quickly too for where all this is going. So it's a major canon episode. Yeah, I love this one. Give it a 10.
The
Hella.
gold nerd.
Yeah. We'll see you guys all later this week for Remember It and Life Death.
Yeah.